Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, one or two still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
And welcome to another night of live Penguin TV. We are super excited to be able to bring the littlest penguins in the world to your office, to your house, wherever you may be watching from and wherever you may be watching from tonight as well. My name is Jordan. I'm going to be your host tonight and talking to you for the next 20 to 30 minutes, all things Little Penguin. And tonight we are also joined by Ranger Tom. Tom, come in, say hello and let us know what you're going to be doing tonight.
Hi everyone, welcome to all the regulars, hello to the newbies. As before, I'll be keeping an eye on the Facebook feed, so any interesting questions, I'll pass them on. We can't get to everyone, there's just too many, so we'll see how we go with that. 831 penguins last night, so it actually doubled from the night before.
831,
yep.
831.
So hopefully it'll go up again tonight, and we'll see what happens. Have a great night.
Great, thank you Tom. So at any point throughout the live stream tonight, everybody, if you have a penguin or a Phillip Island question, please do just let us know in the comments. We will do our best to answer a couple here on the live stream tonight. And it looks like we might even have a few friends who have literally just washed up on the water's edge here at the moment. So it is getting around about time. Is that what Kerry was it Kerry? Sally, sorry. So Sally is our penguin counter tonight, and she just alerted Tom that we, of course, have penguins at the water's edge, but you guys probably would have been able to see them before we did. So these are the little penguins that we are going to be watching cross the beach and making their way back to their burrows tonight here on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. Now, of course, as I mentioned, we are here on Phillip Island, but I would like to acknowledge that this island, Milau, is the traditional lands of the Bunurong, who have been coming over to Milau, Phillip Island, for many, many thousands of years, and they've been living very peacefully and sustainably with this land, caring for country, the seas, the waters, the land for so long, and now we have a beautiful population of 32,000 little penguins that call Milau or Phillip Island home. So please let us know in the comments if you know who the traditional custodians are of the land that you're joining us from. It's really important that we do pay our respects and acknowledge who the traditional custodians are of where we're joining from. And hopefully, there might be some other people on Bunurong land here in Australia, but would love to know Australia-wide or even internationally what the traditional lands are as well. And yes, here we go. They are starting to make their little dangerous dash home. Now, it was 8:31 penguins, Tom?
Yep.
Yes, beautiful. So every single night, everybody here at the Penguin Parade, we are counting penguins crossing the beach for 50 minutes. 50 minutes, and 831 penguins was the grand total that crossed the beach last night. Now, these live streams don't last the full 50 minutes as much as I would love for them to, so we won't have an updated number for how many penguins crossed the beach tonight. If you're desperate to know how many of these little feathery friends crossed the beach tonight, you're just going to have to tune in same time, same place tomorrow. Now, what we're seeing at the moment, these little penguins are doing their dangerous dash, and as you can see, it's a little bit wild, wet and woolly outside. You can see the rain starting to stream down. So the penguins, as we can see, they don't mind at all. They've been swimming all day, a couple of days, or maybe even a couple of weeks out in the ocean. They are seabirds. They spend about 80% of their lives out in the ocean. They can sleep and keep warm out there. So a little bit of rain on the way home, it doesn't seem to bother them too much. Now, I reckon Sally may have decided to call a start at this point, or at least very, very shortly, because these little penguins are well and truly over that halfway point across the beach. And that is typically when we start counting these little penguins, because sometimes when they do start crossing the beach, they do get a little bit nervous and they'll run back into the water. But usually, now when I say usually, once they get to that halfway point, they know there's no point turning back. So you can be pretty sure that you're not going to have to recount or double count the penguins. And we have one brave little leader who is well and truly leading the way. Aren't you brave? And it looks like we're going to be going for a little bit of a swim in this puddle. And a lovely big jump, and we're going to go for a little swim. And I've just heard Tom say thanks, Sally, and I wonder if that might be because we have an updated number of how many penguins were in that first group, Tom?
Yeah, 75.
75 penguins, beautiful. Well, keep looking in the comments, Tom, and give us a shout out to anyone who was nice and close. So that was a lovely big group of penguins that we had to start off with crossing the beach, and their technical term for when they cross the beach or a group of penguins on land is called a group, but we like calling them a waddle. So we think it's, well, I personally do at least think it's very cute, and it's very characterizing of these little penguins, and we'll be seeing lots more waddles, I'm sure, starting to cross the beach. And I'm hoping that fairly shortly we're going to have some penguins making their way up the Penguin Highway, which is the camera like literally just above where I am now, and we'll be able to get a kind of a different view of the penguins as they start to make their way home. So just like us, penguins do have their own address. They're always heading back to the same burrow, unless of course they're visiting, a cheeky boyfriend or girlfriend on the way, because these little penguins, they're not completely monogamous. They typically pair up with the same breeding partner year after year. I'm just going to flick over to the Penguin Highway camera so that we can see their beautiful little waddly bodies making their way up Highway number 1. So yes, they typically pair up with the same breeding partner year after year, but sometimes they do, decide to visit, a few cheeky partners on the way home. So if you're lucky enough to see two penguins cuddling up nice and close together, it could be the breeding partner or it could be someone a little bit cheeky. We never quite know unless they are microchipped, and we can kind of track their divorce records throughout the years, which can be a really cool thing. I remember I was lucky enough last year to help out with some of our researchers looking into breeding success and penguin pairs, and it was always very exciting to see a penguin pair that either were freshly divorced and they had a brand new partner, or if they'd been together for many years. And I think there was this one burrow that the pair had been together. Oh, you're showing off there, aren't you? Do you see that? The chest was out, the flippers are back. Oh, you're feeling like a very impressive penguin. But yeah, the longest that I've ever observed was about 6 or 7 years, which I thought was absolutely delightful. So yep, as we can see, the penguins are off on their way home. Yeah, you are showing some very interesting behavior. I was going to flick back to the beach, but you can see, I'm not sure if it looks maybe some territorial display or some courting, but I don't think any of those penguins wanted to have a bar of that one. They're all like, nah, too much effort. We are gonna keep continuing on the highway. Alrighty, I might jump back to the beach now and we'll see if we can spot any more penguins. Oh gosh, look at that rain. I'm so glad we are not out there tonight. Tom definitely did not dress for the occasion. Now I'm gonna flick back to the beach, and my goodness, it is some very, very heavy rainfall at the moment. Now I can't really see anything too much, I don't think. And I maybe potentially see one little white belly all alone hanging out in those rocks. Yes, I thought I did. So crossing the beach for these little penguins is the scariest time. Oh, you found a friend or two? Again, it's a little bit hard to see in those rocks, isn't it? Yeah, because crossing the beach at the end of the day and when they head out in the morning, it is the scariest time of day. So because these birds are so little, I should mention these are fully grown adult penguins, everybody. They're only about 33 centimeters or 1 foot tall. And sorry, the rain and the low tide and the darkness is making it a little bit tricky for the camera to focus. But because they are so small, they're not very good at defending themselves against, those big scary predatory birds that we might be lucky enough to see flying around during the day. Swamp harriers, sea eagles, Pacific gulls, peregrine falcons, wedge-tailed eagles, they would all love to snack on a penguin, I am sure. But because these little birds have beautiful navy blue feathers on their back, they camouflage really, really well against the surface of the water. So if there are any of those predatory birds flying around above, they're camouflaged. They can't really see them against that surface of the water. And these penguins know that when the sun sets, when it gets to a certain light level at night, that they can start crossing the beach because those predatory birds will have hopefully gone to bed tonight. And I think the darkness, or the penguins have been aided by the darkness tonight. As we've seen, it is all starting to kind of bucket down a little bit. Now, are you guys looking for other penguins maybe, or are you just going to do a little dangerous dash all by yourself? Either way, I wish you 2 luck. So yes, they are again getting ready to make their way home. They're waiting for it to be dark enough, but when it's dark and stormy around sunset, it gets darker early, which means those predatory birds can return to their nests earlier. Thus, the little pengies can come home earlier as well. But you can see that compared to that first group or that first waddle that we saw crossing the beach, they were just powering on, whereas these two that are hanging around kind of mid-beach, they're a little bit more cautious. They're not too keen to move out of line of those really dark rocks, which also help them camouflage a little bit from when they're crossing the beach, because that's their best form of protection out in the wild, these little penguins, is for camouflage. So if they hang around these little rocks, they know they'll be able to blend in a little bit better than if they were on that kind of open golden sand. But I wonder if those two are waiting for another group of penguins, or a group of penguins out at sea is called a raft, because penguins float on the surface of the water like a raft with their little heads and their little tails up, and they make a sound called a huck, which sounds like huck, 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 huck. It's kind of like a duck quacking, and that's like a location call out. That's the penguin saying, is it dark enough? Can we cross the beach yet? Is there anybody else out there? What do we think? Because when these little birds hit the water's edge, they want to have as many friends with them as possible, because there's safety in numbers, which I reckon is why these two hanging out on the beach now are probably a little bit tentative to cross the beach, although they're kind of looking back towards the water. Oh, and that would be why, because we have a few more friends. You can probably see some little white, oh, hello. That is what you were listening for. I knew they'd be somewhere around again. This group or this raft of penguins is now a waddle of penguins. Oh, and if you have a look to the right, that penguin is joining in as well. Great idea. It looks like there might be a few latecomers hanging around at the water's edge, but I would dare say this is what those two penguins were waiting for just now, waiting for just for a little bit of reassurance, and again, those safety in numbers. So in the comments, let us know how many penguins you think are in this group, and if we're lucky enough, Ranger Sally might let us know how many were in this group. I would say it's probably going to be fairly similar to our first group, just kind of eyeballing it there. But I don't have my binoculars out there trained at the moment. Because yeah, it can be we're looking at them from a different perspective. So you know what, everybody, if you accidentally count a few extra or if you miss a couple, we forgive you. It's a little bit harder to count them from this vantage point as well. And as I mentioned, and Tom mentioned a little bit earlier in the stream, everybody, if you have questions that you would love answered, if you've fallen in love with these little penguins, please don't hesitate to chuck your questions in the comments and we'll do our best to answer a couple of those. Oh, look at them. They are definitely picking up the pace. So, Tom, do we have many questions thus far that we can they can stump us with?
Well, I don't know this one, so you can answer it.
Oh, no. God, no, take it back. I take it back.
This is from Emma, who's 8. How much does a penguin egg weigh? A little penguin egg weigh?
Oh, Emma, was it?
Yep.
Oh, Emma, that is a beautiful question and a very relevant question because at the moment, penguins are kind of starting to think about laying eggs at the moment. So I believe, and you know what, Emma, I might even have to double check my facts because now that Tom's saying he doesn't know, now I'm doubting my own figure that's in my head. I believe it's around about 35 to 40 grams, but it could be potentially be a little bit more. For some reason, I'm thinking 35 or 55. So I might have to go and speak to some of our penguin researchers or go and have a look at some academic papers that cite that statistic, but yeah, it's only very, very small. It's about the size of a small chicken egg. And Tom, that's very rude of you sending me a question that you didn't know.
Yeah, you always want interesting ones.
I definitely do. Oh my gosh, I'm asking for it. All right, give us your curliest penguin questions, everybody, and I'll try my best to answer them. And hopefully I don't make a fool of myself on live Penguin TV tonight. All right. Looks like a couple of them have started their little jump into the pool over here. Very good. Now this over here is a freshwater pool, everybody. It's not ocean water. It's kind of like an overflowing creek from Swan Lake, which is a large body of fresh water just kind of up the road from the Penguin Parade. So normally that little pool isn't here, but the penguins love it when that pool is because you can probably see that they are much better at navigating their way home in the water than what they are on land. Oh, and hello, we have our neighborhood friendly goose, or maybe not so friendly. So everybody, this over here is a Cape Barren goose. It's a type of goose species that we have here on Phillip Island, and even though they are absolutely everywhere on the island, they're actually quite rare. They're one of the rarest species of geese in the world, and because we are fox free here on Phillip Island, there are just so many of them. Now everything is looking pretty hunky-dory at the moment. Now these geese are herbivores, so they're vegetarians, so they're not going to eat the penguins. It's just having a nice little drink of the freshwater pool. But I don't know if anyone's ever been chased by a goose or a duck before, but they can be pretty scary. And you can see that the penguins, they're not getting too close to this goose. Even though they don't kind of stop to go, you're a predatory bird, you might eat me. They just, anything that's kind of bigger than them, they're going to give a nice wide berth. But this goose, Brucey Goosey or Goosey McGooseface, I can't keep up with what our live streamers like calling these geese. Yeah, it doesn't look like we are showing any territorial or aggressive behavior, although if you look kind of to the left, it does look like there's a little bit of a penguin / goose standoff, and they're kind of slowly inching their way forward. But there's been a little bit of interest in the geese. If this is your first time tuning in, you're like, well, we came here to see penguins. Why is she talking about a goose? We have had a few times where the geese kind of chase the penguins because they're getting too close to their nest, to their eggs, or to their goslings as well. So we might be lucky to see a little... The goose didn't even do anything. It just flapped its wings. But so you can see just how kind of scary big animals can be to these little penguins. But I don't know, what do you reckon, Tom? They're pretty resilient. I think they'll just gather their thoughts a little bit, and then they'll be able to start working up the courage again to headbutt the goose. Have you ever been chased by a goose, Tom?
Not very far. They back off pretty quick.
They back off pretty quick.
Yeah.
The 2 times that I've been chased by a goose, there's always been people watching, and it's always been highly, highly embarrassing. So I'm glad you didn't have the trauma of having an extended goose chase, Tom. Oh my goodness. Do we have many guesses for how many penguins were in this group, or do we have a number from Sally, our penguin counter, tonight?
I don't think we got a number.
So. Haven't got a number, that's all right. Sally's probably too busy. This is one of about 4 or 5 different pathways that we have penguins crossing the beach, sometimes at the same time. So sometimes our counters are a little bit too busy trying to count all the penguins across all the different pathways crossing the beach to get a number to us. But if you are a regular Wattle watcher, if you're a regular live streamer, I'm sure you've probably got a very close guess because you're all very, very practiced at this by now. Now, these penguins hanging out on the rocks don't look like they are in much of a hurry whatsoever. They are just hanging out on the resting rocks, catching their breath. We had a fairly low tide tonight, so they had that long stretch of beach to cross before they reached these rocks. And when they do make their way home, that's their time to kind of have a bit of a rest, socialize, because typically when they're out in the water, they're out there by themselves. So, when they come home, that's their chance to kind of reacquaint themselves with each other, preen their feathers, and they want to make sure that their feathers are sitting nice and flat on their head, that they're all nice and waterproofed up, because they do get a little bit ruffled up from spending a bit of time out in the ocean. And because they have beaks, they can't, fix the top of the feathers at the top of their head, so they often need a little bit of help from their fellow penguins, whether that's a breeding partner, a neighbour, an offspring, a family member, or just a completely random penguin. They are pretty altruistic, which is quite cool. Now, it has been a little while since we've seen any penguins crossing the beach, so I might have a little bit of a look. We'll cast our gaze out to the beach to see if we can find anyone. And while I'm looking, Tom, do we have any more questions that you can stop me with? That was a really good one before, Emma. Thank you.
This one I can answer, so... Yeah.
Fabulous. Take it off my hands.
So this is from Theodore, who's 7. Do our little penguins only eat fish? So I've been here 14 and a half years, about 5 years before I started here. Up until that point, about 20 years ago, most of their diet was pilchards, which if you've been fishing locally, you'll know as blue bait. There was a few viruses in the ocean which affected the pilchard stocks for a couple of years, so the penguin numbers really dropped off quite substantially. And then they readjusted their diet, and because of that, they eat a broad range of small fish, squid, octopus, cuttlefish, small cod, baby cooter, pretty much anything that's bite size. So that's been a good thing. So that'll hopefully stand them in good stead in the future because they've got a broader diet base. And a few years ago, through a GoPro filming a dive, we actually saw them eating small jellyfish, which was a big discovery because it doesn't show up in their scat, which we used to analyse. And the only way it would show up is in a DNA test, which we very rarely do. So that was a really big deal to find that out. So that's the long answer to that question.
Amazing. Thank you, Tom. Sorry, I mucked up with the camera. I am sorry, everybody. I hope no one's getting motion sickness. Exactly like Tom said, it's mostly pilchards. That we like to say that's kind of their favourite type of food. But of course, when that isn't there, if there's a disease through the population, they need to be able to adapt and eat other things. So because of that similar things may potentially happen like that in the future, which is why it's a really, really important thing that we're protecting the food source of these little penguins, because they are kind of ecosystem regulators. These little penguins, although they might be small, they are mighty. They are the top predators here on Phillip Island. So we really, really encourage people that if you eat seafood, please choose sustainably sourced seafood. So, they're running back, and I've just spotted something interesting on the top camera, but I am curious to see what... I wonder if the penguins are a little bit nervous about this goose. So yeah, if you do eat seafood, please find... Oh, they are running away. Stop interrupting my story, penguins. I bet it's that goose that's causing a little bit of grief. Yeah, please choose sustainably sourced. Look for the marine stewardship signal or the kind of logo on your seafood to make sure you're buying responsibly sourced seafood. And as well, if you have a precious little cat at home, look at the ingredients of your cat food, because quite often pilchards and anchovies are kind of a main ingredient in cat food, and that is like those fish in the cat food is in direct competition with these little penguins. So of course, cats don't swim, so they don't need to eat fish. So if there's something that you would love to do to help protect these penguins, please think about the seafood that you're eating, and think about what your cat is eating as well. We will thank you for it, and the penguins will most definitely thank you for it. We'll make sure they come home with a nice big belly full of fish. Now, Tom has just let me know that we've got about 5 minutes left to go, and again, sorry, Tom, it's probably going to be a bit of a Jordan 5 minutes.
That was about 2 minutes ago anyway.
That was about 10 minutes ago. I was keeping an eye on the clock. I'm like, oh, he hasn't cut me off yet. That's nice.
I gave you an extra 5 minutes before the 5 minutes.
Isn't that beautiful? So the Jordan 5 minutes might end up being a Jordan 15 minutes. How fun. Now, I did see something a little bit interesting on the top camera. It was a penguin going the opposite way, but I have lost sight of it. So one of the things that Paula, our research technical officer, has asked all of our rangers and you guys who are watching live Penguin TV to let us know if you see any penguins going the opposite way, because that is what we call, or it's a female penguin that we call a shell gritter. And because when female penguins are getting ready to lay their eggs, they strip the calcium from their bones to make the eggshells nice and strong. Look at them going up in a beautiful, straight, orderly line. I think that's the orderliest I've ever seen these penguins. Good work, guys. So yeah, when penguins are going the opposite way and the female penguins are heading down to the beach to look for little bits of seashells to nibble on, that's a sign that she's going to be laying some eggs soon, which is very exciting. And we've got some more friends on the Penguin Highway, so let's watch these guys waddle on up. So yeah, we already do have a few eggs in the colony and even a few chicks as well, which is very, very exciting. We normally, at the kind of height of the breeding season, you'll see chicks here at the Penguin Cradle be November, December, Jan. Sometimes the penguins do start a little bit earlier, like last year, and they were actually able to have 2 clutches, which was really cool, and increase the amount of chicks that they raise and kick out of the burrow after about 8 weeks, which is a very, very quick time to grow up, but not for penguins. Imagine if we did that to our children. That'd be insane. But yeah, it's a very, very quick process. So around about 20 days in mum's tummy, and then mum and dad taking in turns sitting on the eggs and incubating them, and then taking in turns feeding the chicks after they hatch for about between 7 to 11 weeks, depending on how spoiled the little chickies are. And then after around about 8 weeks, they are literally adult penguins ready to fend for themselves out in the big blue ocean. So it's a tough little life for a penguin, but we have full faith in them. Now I'm just watching, there's a few penguins crawling around on these rocks over here that look like they're kind of going the opposite way to other penguins. And I'm just going to focus on this one here, because as I'm watching it, it does tend to kind of be looking kind of at the ground every now and then. I wonder if that could potentially be that shell gritter I was just talking about, looking for little bits of shell or rocks to nibble on to get kind of her calcium supplement. So she's definitely going a slightly different way than the other penguins, which is a bit exciting. So maybe an expecting mother. But yeah, hopefully, of course, we can't have anyone here at the moment. Oh, and even a second one. Hello, potential mama-to-be. At the moment, we aren't allowed to have people visiting us here at the Penguin Parade as much as Tom and I and every other ranger here would majorly love it, but unfortunately it's just not safe to do so at the moment, which is why we are bringing you live Penguin TV at the moment. But when restrictions do ease, when it's safe to come and visit us, we really, in fact, I think you could actually see her eating that rock or that shell. Did you see that? I'm so sure I saw it. That was cool. We want to have you back as soon as we can on the stands, on the boardwalks, on one of our tours, any of the above. We absolutely love talking to people about penguins. I think live Penguin TV, as much for you guys and as much for us, has been a bit of a mental health lifesaver, because it is literally Tom and my job and every other ranger's job who is on the live stream to talk to people about penguins. So this has given us a little bit of an outlet, which has been wonderful, and we get to share our beautiful little penguins with the world. But again, we want to have you here in the doors at the Penguin Parade and get some of these questions you're asking us to, straight to our face. That's absolutely what we want. So we're a non-for-profit conservation organisation here at Phillip Island Nature Parks. So again, please come visit us. The profits from tours, tickets and souvenirs goes directly back into our conservation education and research work that we do. Of course, for some people, it might be a little bit longer before you can. Yeah, she's got something in her beak. Was that one a little bit too big, darling? It might be a little bit longer for some people to come and visit us, and if there's something you would like to do to help support the work that we do here at the Penguin Parade, please do consider donating to the Penguin Foundation. It does things like fund our rehabilitation clinic where we look after sick and injured penguins and native wildlife. It also funds a lot of cool research projects that we have on the go here at the nature parks, because of course, as much as we like to think that we can talk fluent penguin with our penguin impressions, there's some things that we just can't get by observing them. We have to have scientists come in and actually study the penguin's behavior to get some of these answers. If you donate to the Penguin Foundation, if you adopt a penguin or if you adopt a seal or an eastern bar bandicoot, that is going directly back into the conservation education and research work that we do. So a huge thank you to everyone who has donated in the past, and a huge thank you to anyone who's considering donating now or into the future. Oh, there's a few penguins kind of up the top going the wrong way. Maybe lots of mums. Okay, I realise that I just cannot stop talking, Tom. Let's go to one more question and then we'll sign off for the night.
Okay, this is an easy one, so I can do it.
Amazing.
Funny that.
Yeah, he always gets the easy ones.
This is from Isla, who's 6. How fast can a little penguin run? So, pretty good question. Up until white settlement in the area, they had really no land predators apart from the birds of prey, which they avoid by crossing the beach when it's dark and hiding their burrows during the day. So there was no dogs or cats or humans or cars to worry about. So it wasn't part of their evolution. So they certainly can't outrun a human or a dog or a cat. They can run reasonably quick over a short distance. They can't outrun a human. Usually they'll run pretty quick over a short distance and they'll squat down regardless. And that's when we try and catch them if we have to, if they're injured or whatever. If they're really, really sick and injured, they won't run very fast or very far. But even when they're quite injured, they can run pretty quick over a short distance. But as I said, eventually they will squat down because it's just not part of their behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom and I heard multiple calls from, I'm just watching this little shell gritter who's hanging out on the beach looking for some little bits of seashells. I've heard lots of times over the radio, Tom's called in a sick or an injured penguin and he's had to jump over the boardwalks and get that penguin and admit it to our wildlife rehabilitation clinic. So you do have to jog a little bit to keep up with them sometimes, don't you, Tom? Yeah. They can be, as you said, pretty quick over a short distance, but ultimately you just got to have that kind of burst of power, and then we're able to generally get them as long as they don't go into the water or into any vegetation. My goodness, look at those 2 shell gritters hanging out. There's definitely a few of them. I would say, again, I haven't been keeping track, but at least 5. So at least 5 potential females that in the next couple of days may be laying some eggs, which is very exciting. Alrighty, so I have been talking for 32 minutes now, no surprises there. I could probably go on for another 32 minutes, but the lights that we have on here at the Penguin Parade will get turned off. So as I mentioned, we do count penguins every single night for 50 minutes, 50 minutes. So if you want to know how many penguins cross the beach tonight, you'll just have to tune in same time, same place tomorrow, so that, yeah, you can satisfy that curiosity. Oh, and I've just remembered as well, Tom, sorry, I'm going to drag it out just a little bit longer. I believe tomorrow is actually going to be the 1 year anniversary of Live Penguin TV, everyone, which is very exciting. We've been running this live stream for 12 months, 1 full year. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. I believe it's Tom and myself that are back on the live stream tomorrow. So one thing that I would love to ask you Waddle Watchers out there is to have a little bit of a think about some really fun, interesting, memorable moments that you've experienced watching Live Penguin TV. Any funny things, any really great questions. We would love to hear all about them tomorrow, and we might do a little bit of a reminiscing session tomorrow. I think that'd be a fun way to bring in 1 year of Live Penguin TV. What do we think? All right, I think that's about all I wanted to say That's a lie. Of course, I could keep on going, but again, we'll be here all night and the lights will get turned off on us. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in night after night. Oh, more penguins on the beach. Again, tune in same time, same place. I hope everyone is keeping sane and safe in these uncertain times, and I hope these little penguins are bringing you some fun, happiness and smiles at home. We are going to be running this live stream, for the next couple of weeks at least, and maybe even longer if we're a little bit lucky. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, same time, same place tomorrow. And I am going to say goodbye in the language of the penguin, which I imitated for you a little bit earlier, the huck. But is there anything else that I've forgotten before we sign off, Tom? Pretty much got everything? Alrighty. Well, do you want to come in and say goodbye? Yeah, come on. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow.
See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.